Hey gang, Jake here. Y'all ever think about all the fun ways you could make a character that'd be absolute hell to implement in a fighting game? Well, it's my specialty. If you guys don't know, about a month ago from the date this is being put out, I made a video talking about leaks for a game called Multiversus. In that video, I said that the game looked bad, which generated a less than stellar response. To start, I feel I should clarify that I could have phrased that better. At the time, the leaks we were receiving painted a less than stellar picture of the game, with reports saying it looked cheap and renders of Rick Sanchez flying around that really did not look good. But instead of saying that, I said something unnecessarily negative about the game that didn't really explain the problem. And well, egg on my face, it actually doesn't look half bad. I've still got reservations, and the free-to-play combined with the piles upon piles of children's IP doesn't exactly make me optimistic. But the people behind it seem passionate, and the art style looks pretty solid in my opinion. Overall, that first reveal has me anticipating the game more than I expected, and it's also got me thinking about how certain characters could play. And the first one to discuss is, well, you saw the thumbnail, we're talking about Ben 10. But before we can get into it, we've got a ton to discuss regarding how Multiversus is different from other games we've covered, so let's get right into it. Right off the bat, there's a lot that sets Multiversus apart from other platform fighters, so we'll need to discuss that. First off, we don't know exactly how movesets are going to be formatted in this game, so for the sake of this video, we'll be using Smash Bros. Movesets as a baseline. Second, we know that there's going to be moves designed to support allies in 2v2 gameplay, so for the sake of this moveset, we'll go forward with the basic premise that at least one of the 4 specials has to be for the purpose of supporting a teammate. Lastly, I want it to be known that at this stage of the game, we know basically nothing about how this will work, and I'm really just taking guesses. Overall, I want this moveset to be understood less as a concrete wish and more as an idea I'm firing into cyberspace. One that could change and evolve, but for now is pretty much entirely built on speculation. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about Ben. So, Ben is a weird character, because despite having some of the most moveset potential of any character I've covered for any game, it's weighed against the fact that he'd be insanely resource intensive. For every alien you give him, he's gonna need another model and another animation rig, and that shit's gonna add up. Punch Time Explosion had to deal with this, and they ended up giving Ben a whole whopping 5 transformations. Ultimately, that was probably a lot of work, but the fact that the rest of Ben's moveset was literally just him punching and kicking was super disappointing, and I'd like to avoid that if I can. I've seen moveset concepts that try to do something about this, and some of them do get really creative, but overall I think my vision for Ben's just gonna have to be difficult to develop. Maybe put him at the end of a season pass, something that's a ways away so the team at Player First can chip away at him over time. Anyways, let's discuss which Ben and which aliens we'll be working with. I think the most likely Ben is definitely the one from the reboot, and while that wouldn't break my heart, I'd really rather see Omniverse Ben. Being the Ben of the Prime timeline, he's got the most history to him, and I think the Omniverse art style would transfer over really well to this cel-shaded look. Up next is the aliens, and splitting these evenly across the 4 series was kinda difficult. Overall, I think it makes the most sense to give the OG Series 4, Alien Force 3, and Omniverse 3, rounding out to a total of 10. With all that out of the way, let's talk about gameplay. Multiversus has a class system in which characters can slot into one of at least 5 roles: Bruiser, Assassin, Mage Ranged, Tank, and Support. Personally, I'm tempted to throw Ben into the Bruiser category, as I'm someone who likes to just get in the opponent's face during a fight. However, something important to consider is that the time to complete a transformation animation is a lot, and if Ben had to be up in people's faces all the time, he'd need to have a lot of strength to accommodate his speed. As such, I think Mage Ranged makes more sense, as he'd be able to use projectiles and consider spacing without feeling like a glass cannon or a heavyweight. So for his specials, Ben will use aliens with projectile attacks, and for his tilts, he'll use melee attacks in his human form. But that's not a lot of detail, so let's get into the moves themselves. For the neutral special, Ben will transform into Heat Blast and burn the ground, creating an area of lava. Any opponents that are caught in this will take very fast chip damage, kinda like Steve's Magma Block or Piranha Plant's Poison. For the side special, Ben will bust out Feedback and launch a ball of electricity forward. This is a medium speed projectile that shocks opponents on impact, kinda like Corrin's Dragon Fang shot, but without the bite follow-up. The down special is one of Ben's most iconic aliens, Chroma Stone. If Ben is hit with a projectile while transformed, he'll absorb the impact. He can keep doing that 3 times in a row, but if he tries it a 4th, or uses the move without being hit, he'll unleash a powerful energy blast forwards, with knockback and active frames increasing with every attack he absorbs. Lastly, Ben's up special will be Big Chill, as it was in Punch Time Explosion. However, instead of releasing ice crystals downwards, Ben will actually phase for this attack. This has a number of effects, depending on whether Ben makes contact with an enemy or an ally. If he hits an ally, he'll catch them and take them up with him, making himself tangible. If he hits an enemy, he'll freeze them on contact, essentially turning them into a platform until they can mash out. Then there's the smash attacks. For the side smash, Ben turns into Accelerate and sprints forward about half the stage. This can launch opponents upwards and it moves insanely fast, but unfortunately it's super easy to read. The down smash is Cannonbolt Slam, which turns Ben into Cannonbolt and has him jump into the air and spin himself into the ground, dealing damage to opponents on both sides. The up smash is my personal favorite of the 3, the Incursion Ambassador, which will have Ben turn into Wrath and punch upwards, screaming out in that iconic heel voice. Then there's the Aerials. The Nair will have Ben turn into Cannonbolt and spin out in the air for a short period of time, dealing chip damage. The Fair will be Serious Butt Kicking, which will have Ben turn into Wrath and kick forwards, launching opponents to the side. For the Bear, Ben will turn into Accelerate, whacking his tail behind him. For the Dare, Ben will turn into Heat Blast and kick fire downward, kinda like Alan's poor attempts at flight. The Up Air will be a simple upwards poke from feedback, zapping anyone who comes into contact with the tip. As previously mentioned, the tilts will all be simple martial arts, as I want to give Ben some quicker options that show off his prowess in human form. The jab is a simple, well, jab. The side tilt is a right hook, the up tilt is an uppercut, and the down tilt is a sweep kick. For the dash attack, Ben turns into Accelerate and slams his tail down in front of him. Then there's the grab and throws. The grab is Feedback, who releases a tendril forward and grapples anyone in range. For the forward throw, Cannonbolt grabs up the opponent, spins out forward, and uncurls, launching them with momentum. The back throw is Wrath's Polaris Pile Driver, which is essentially just that, a pile driver. The down throw is Big Chill, who phases through the opponent and freezes them in place. It works kinda like a berry grab in Smash, which opponents can mash out of. Lastly, the up throw comes courtesy of Gravitack, who flings the opponent into the air with his gravity powers. Lastly, there's the Super, which may or may not exist. We don't really know what this game's got in store for us, but if there is a super mechanic, Ben's will start with turning into Gravitack, pulling in anyone nearby with his orbit. If people get dragged in, they'll be slammed into the ground, before Ben turns into Way Big and fires his, well, it's a Specium Ray, directly at the ground. This'll damage everyone in the blast range, before it launches them to each side and Ben turns back to normal. Then there's Ben's taunts. The first, his side taunt, would have him fiddle with the Omnitrix, accidentally accepting a call from Azimuth before immediately hanging up. For his down taunt, he's slammed down on the Omnitrix and accidentally turned into the worst, before drooping his head and turning back. Lastly, this taunt is deeply unlikely and mildly stupid, but hell, if WB's gonna feed into the memes, I'm gonna use that to my advantage. You see, in the Ben 10 community, it's a common point of discussion to ask whether or not Ben could hypothetically change into aliens from other franchises, assuming he scanned them in. Thus, we're going to play on that. Ben would slam down on the watch, with a blinding light concealing him only to reveal his appearance hasn't changed. He'd look himself over before shooting laser eyes into the ground, and slamming on his chest to change back to human. Obviously, this one's a little long, so it'd be cancelable, like Bayo's dance taunt. Lastly, for Ben himself is his alternate costumes. He's got a ton of great picks, but to highlight just 2, there's his Ultimate Alien Force design, which looks really solid in the Omniverse style, and his evil double, Albedo. There's also tons of Ben variants across the multiverse, but there's too many to list, so I'm not gonna. As for other Ben 10 content, there's the stage. Plenty of locations could fill the role, but I'm gonna go with the rooftops of Bellwood. The Null Void is tempting, but I prefer Bellwood simply because tons of character cameos could fit. Now, I know asking for stage cameos when talking about a character with 11 models is a bad idea, but just for the sake of the video, let's do it anyway. Some characters who'd be fun to see would be Gwen, Kevin, Grandpa Max, Rook, Charmcaster, Azimuth, Esther, Vilgax, Dr. Animo, and you know what? Let's throw Rex Salazar on there. Pretty much all of these characters would be badass if they showed up as fighters, and if it happened, I certainly wouldn't be hurt. But for now, a stage cameo would be a great way to represent a lot of characters at once. Overall, Ben's a character with a ton of potential, and while he would be a lot of work, I think the possibilities justify the effort, if done properly. Thank you guys for watching. It was a ton of fun to make this video, and I'm probably going to talk more about Multiversus in the future, so please consider liking and subscribing. I want to give a huge shout out to my buddy Just Let Me Put Sam. He did the art for this video, and it looks fantastic, so if you're interested, he's a super funny guy. Go follow him on Twitter, follow him on Insta. Highly recommend it. Let me know what characters you guys want to see down below, and that's about it. I'll see you next time. Peace.